So hey, I really wanted to make a short little video about an important topic, and it's the topic of debt and making money. I always try to carry a lot of debt myself because it creates a tremendous amount of leverage. And the things that I take debt, the things that I use debt to purchase are always things that can provide exponential returns. So one of the things that can provide exponential returns is starting a business or doing something that you love that can produce money because of the passion that you put behind it. But what typically happens in the typical advice that's out there, and sometimes it applies if we're talking about depreciating assets, you probably shouldn't go put a vacation on a credit card, or go buy something that's not going to retain its value. But when it comes to yourself and to your own education, and it's something that you need but you can't afford, I'd submit to you that this is something that you don't want to save up for. Folks who save up for things like that end up never getting them. Life ends up getting in the way, and they end up being left high and dry and not being able to achieve the goals that they want to achieve. So, a lot of times the best education does have a heavy price tag on it, but if it works and the results are almost 100% guaranteed, then the price really shouldn't matter that much as long as the return is going to exceed the price. Because let's say it was something cheap that you were buying and it didn't work. Well, yeah, great that it's cheap, but if it didn't work, then what did you really accomplish? And an example that I'll give is there's frequently opportunities that come up where you just need to come up with like about $5,000 or so to buy a piece of real estate or to control a piece of real estate. And if there's like 50 grand of equity on the other side, or you can get a really low monthly payment on it so that you can create a payment spread on it, then you ought to be screeching your tires to the seller's house to get that deal under contract for $5,000. And if you don't have the $5,000, you ought to be putting it on a credit card, or getting some kind of a personal loan so that you can make that deal happen. See, the thing is, the things that we need, we go ahead and pay for. And I want to give you an example. Let's say that you're about to go through a divorce, your marriage is in trouble, and you don't have the money to pay for counseling, but both of you want to go through counseling. Well, does it make sense to save up for counseling and you probably end up divorced before you even save up the money, or does it make sense to go in debt to get the counseling and probably save the marriage, or at least possibly save the marriage? I'd submit to you that there's an urgency there, and it requires making an investment to save the situation. Now, what typically happens when people are concerned about the cost of something, and I've seen this a couple times when I'm on the phone with folks, is that they want to think about it, or they want to put it off towards another day. And what I found is that 95% of the time when people can't make a decision right then and there, they actually don't come back. Either it's because they weren't convinced of the value, they're too afraid to say no, or they really thought that they would be able to save up for it. But it's not what happens, because life gets in the way. And what we do as humans is we do buy what we need. If we need something, we find the money. So if you end up convinced that you need something, you will find a way to come up with the money. For example, if you hurt yourself really bad and you go to the emergency room but you don't have insurance, you're going to go to that emergency room even though there's going to be a big bill that you have to settle up later on. And I think the same approach should be said for things that you want to do. If you truly want to move forward and learn some skills that'll pay off for the rest of your life, you got to make the investment in yourself. And it's perfectly okay to use debt, to use credit card debt even, to finance that kind of education that can pay extreme dividends for the rest of your life. There's all kinds of credit cards that have 0% financing. You don't even have to make a payment for 18 months. And if you're getting an education on something that has value, you should be able to produce at least the value of that training and a lot more within 18 months. So anyway, I think it's just something that needs to be said. Don't always listen to what people tell you about you got to save and avoid debt. Debt is a very good thing if it's used in the right way. That's what I wanted to say.